when did the solution, were you there when the solution-focused model started to be formed, and can you tell me something about that?
I left in 1985. I was there during the summer of '85, and then I think I would left in the fall, and then came back in '89.
Mm-hmm.
And something, a lot happened while I was gone. I think a lot of important stuff happened. Because when I came back, I thought I would just be there for a few months, and then I'd just write the book, because I didn't expect anything much to change. But after I'd been there a little while, I realized I was going to have to spend another year there, and write a different book than I intended to. So I know that Eve and I've talked about this a little bit. I know that Eve said, but I don't think she's ever given me a concrete time, and probably it was more an evolution than anything, but that over time they began to notice, and I suspect the research committee had something to do with this, began to notice that really the action was in the interview. And so they did begin to pay way more attention behind the mirror to the interview, and less time trying to come up with clever interventions. And so somewhere in that period, that shift happened. And of course, that shift in focus is all that was necessary then to begin to think about asking questions in different ways. I mean, even before it was solution focused, they asked the crystal ball question, which is a kind of miracle question, and they asked children questions that had a lot of the quality of a miracle question. So it wasn't as though the miracle question somehow came from nowhere. It was an adaptation of a technique that had been useful previously, but now needed to be changed a little bit to fit within this new context, and so on. And so I think the key is the shift in consciousness to what's going on in front of the mirror, and that probably makes it harder to order pizza while the session's going on if you have to really listen to what's going on. But I think that was huge, and I would be surprised if there was a moment when somebody said, here we are. It was more a kind of sliding into it over time.
And you left, and coming back, you could observe the difference.
Yeah.
But if you have been there all whole time, you maybe it would have gradually changed, but you can see that it was a big difference.
Yeah, and that was one of the disagreements that Steve and I had about it, was that I said that, initially at least, I said that what they were doing in '84 was not solution-focused therapy. And he always said it was, and that he didn't see he saw a shift, but he didn't see the greater shift that I did. A few years ago, I went through my notes of the sessions, not of what went on behind the mirror, but of the sessions that I observed in '84 and '85. And I decided that those sessions were more solution focused than I remembered, but still not solution focused, because they were so dependent upon what went on behind the mirror. And you would get interviews where all kinds of things would be talked about, and then the intervention message would come back, and it would be something different, because they were clearly trying to solve the client's problem. and whereas in '89 it would be like today. You talk about all of these things, and you could predict what would come back as the message, because the message is going to have to be tied to what went on in the session. And so I think you might be right. I think maybe the difference between Steve and me was that I wasn't there and he was there, and maybe didn't see how significant this slow shift was.
Mm-hmm.